Hey rock stars, Lij Shaw here at NAMM 2022, and I'm standing here with Marek at Dangerous Music. How are you, Marek?
Aging gracefully like fine wine.
Bring it in, bring it in.
Right on.
Great to connect with you here, man. You guys make really amazing stuff for the studio, whether it's a home studio or a pro studio, and I've been using your monitor ST monitor controller in my studio when my old one broke, and it was recommended to me back in Nashville, and I plugged it in and I turned up my monitors and I said, holy shit, I've never heard my music sound this good coming out of my speakers in my studio. So thank you for doing that, man.
Musical and transparent. We just want to give you everything, because if you can't hear what you're mixing, you're making bad decisions.
Yeah, well, I know that you guys take it a whole lot further than that, and you have an entire Dangerous system for mixing, which is fascinating to me. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know that once I moved my mixing console out of the studio and I went entirely in the box, I immediately missed the sound of my console, and that's one of the things that you guys specialize in helping with. So would you like to give us an introduction to what you're doing here and show us around?
Absolutely, I can walk you through it. We start with, imagine you've got your favorite microphone, your favorite mic pre. You're going to come out of that and you're going to go into what's called a Dangerous Liaison. So Dangerous Liaison allows you to plug in 6 stereo pieces of analog outboard or 12 pieces of mono analog outboard, and just switch between them. And the way we're using it today is in a tracking and mixing scenario. You can use it a lot of different ways if you're just a mix engineer, but today we're going to talk about tracking and mixing. So I come out of that mic and that mic pre and I go into bus A over here. So all my stuff, LOP plus right now, Manley new mu, Manley variable mu, the Bax EQ, Dangerous compressor, and the Manley massive passive are plugged into those. So that fast, I can just select something instantly. I can store presets. If I decide, I want to have this set up, I'll just hit store, and then I'll put it into one of the preset holders. Boom, there we are. I can flip between different things now, different settings. So that's tracking. I come out of this bad boy, and I go into AD plus, which is over here. I will go into AD plus on input 1, and this is an A to D converter, and I can come out of this USB, I can come out of this AES, I can come out of this SPDIF, I can come out of this in a whole bunch of different ways, and that is going to what we call euphemistically tape, or my DAW, right? So that's how I'm tracking my whole session. Now on playback, I'm going to play back out of my DAW, and today we're using USB for everything as an aggregate on Mac, and I'm going to play back through these things called the Convert 8s. Each one of these, 8 plus 8, makes 16, last I checked my new math. So I've got 16 outputs of these bad boys, and those are going into my summing mixer. So analog out of these guys into the summing mixer. I'll hit play over here. Okay, so as we can see, we've got lights happening here, lights happening here. These are all individual items or stems. So in this case, I've got kicks happening on 1, snares happening on 2, and you can sort of see them doing that thing. Toms are on 3 and 4, that's why nothing's happening at this moment. And then 5 and 6 for my overheads. I've got 7 and 8 are acoustic guitars. I've got on 9 and 10, 9 is my bass, 10 is my lead vocal, then so on and so forth, 11 and 12, pianos, so on and so forth. I usually do an effects return back here with all my delays and choruses and such. And if we look down here at the summing mixer, what I've got available to me, I've got a couple mono switches. Those I want to use isolate things that are really important to me that I want in mono. So for example, 1 and 2 are, 1 we said was kick, 2 is snare. And then I hit the mono button because I'm not making the white album with things hanging out there in the left and right. I want things up the center. And that's why I've got 9 as a bass guitar and 10 as a lead vocal, because I want to marry that, weld it to the center of my mix. Even in EDM style music, you'll hear people like Luca Bertolesi say that mono button is the magic to keeping things in the center. A lot of the times he gets stems that are kick drums that are stereo, and he needs that to be right in the center. So then you'll notice I've got some buttons over here in this mix section that say harmonics and paralimit and transformer. So what are those things? Those are color circuits, because Dangerous is known for its transparency and its musical character. So it's not going to fight you. It's the one summing mixer that you will see in every genre of music, whether it's classical, jazz, hip-hop, rock, pop, anything, because it does not dictate a sound to you. You are able to create your own sound, which you should. As a creative, you're supposed to be able to make your own sound, and we're going to allow that to happen. So now, with those color circuits, you can decide, okay, I have all my sound. Now, if I want to give it some tasteful character, I can bring that patina on it as I see fit. So you can either put it on your mix bus, or you can assign it to 1314 or 1516. So for example, I could say, okay, I want harmonics on 1314. I'm going to send my background vocals there to make them pop. Or I'm going to do a paralimiter on 1516, and I'm going to send my kick and my snare over there to give it that real heavy compressed parallel compression type sound. Or if you're super savvy, you're going to set these up on an aux send as if they were a piece of outboard gear, and you're going to automate it in your DAW. So in my DAW, I'm going to set up 1314 as harmonics. I'll open this wide open. I'll set up 1516 as paralimit. I'll open that wide open. So now I'm automating in the DAW. I don't have to worry about my recalls because everything's happening, in Pro Tools or in whatever DAW you're working with. And I can do things like, I talk about symmetry and mixing. We hate symmetry and mixing. We want things to be asymmetrical. So if I've got one hook, maybe it's real chill. The second hook, I want to start pushing some of the character into it. Third hook, I'm going to push more character into it, right? Because our job as the mix producer is to make sure that lead vocalist and that mix is bringing our passengers, our listeners, on through the entire story of the song from front to finish. And the only way we're going to do that is by changing things and changing the character of the song. So you can use those color circuits to do that. All right, so now we're playing through the 2-bus plus.
Now wait, when we're doing the color circuits, is that something that we can actually bring in and out during the mix of a song, so it can be not there and then it's in? And is it automatable too as well or anything?
So yeah, great questions. And if I were a politician, I'd say, great question. When I was a boy, my pappy used to take me fishing, and I'd change the subject. But in this case, we're going to answer the question. So yeah, you can do it a bunch of different ways. So one, you could lock it in place, right? You could just hit it and forget it, set it and forget it. But I like things to be a little more dynamic. You'll find that a lot of the Grammy Award-winning people and our friends out there, our platinum folks, what they do is called commitment, the thing that most of us men are afraid of. And so they'll say, hey, I love the way my drums sound right now through this transformer, through this paralimiter, and they'll actually just commit that back into the DAW. So they'll just burn it to tape, right? And so now when it's time to recall, and the label calls up and says, because they read a book about something, I think we need 1/10 of a dB more on the bass guitar, right, or some kind of crazy thing. They can just open their DAW, the patina's already in there, they just juice the fader or take it down or whatever they have to do, or pan it, and everything's already committed there. These are really outboard processors that happen to be built into the box. That's how you have to think of these color circuits. That's why with the new 2-bus XT, we added 2 different color circuits, because life's too short to just have 3 flavors in life or whatever. So you put those together, you have 5 now. Anyway, so should we continue our journey of what happens?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so now I've got my audio sitting here inside here. We've been playing back, and we're loving what we're listening to. But how am I going to listen to it, right? So I've got 2 sets of stereo outputs on the back of this. So on the back of the 2-bus plus. One set of stereo outputs is going to go into my monitor ST, which is what I control with my remote control.
Hey, that's one I've got in my place.
Right, so you're familiar with this bad boy. So one set goes here so I can hear what the heck is happening that comes out of my speakers. The second set is going to go back up to the AD plus and go into input number 2. Remember, we said input 1 was for tracking under this scenario, and input 2 now is for mixdown. So now that's going back into my session, right? So I'm mixing that real time into my DAW. But what I haven't told you, one important part of this story, is this mix insert button over here, the external insert. So I could just hang, this is for putting whatever you want. You put an equalizer on here, you put a compressor on here, whatever you'd like to do. But in this case, we've gotten really smart, because remember back at the liaison that we were tracking through, we were talking about bus A. Well, back over here, we've also got bus B. So bus B has all the exact same gear connected to it, right? So over here I've got LA Plus, I've got the the Manley NAMM. I've got, here, let's clear this out. I've got the, like I said, the LA Plus, I've got the Manley NAMM, I've got the Manley Variable Mu, I've got the Bax EQ, I've got the Dangerous Compressor, I've got the Massive Passive. Obviously you can have whatever you want connected here. That's just what I have here today at the show. So now I'm able to audition all those at a touch of the button. I can also answer that age-old question of what comes first, the compressor or the equalizer? Because I can just hit the flip button and change those two. If we had to do that under other auspices, we'd have to actually go into our patch bay, set it in one direction, record it, commit, then turn it in the other direction, record it and commit, and then play back between the two. And the only person that would ever do that is Roger Nichols, and he's passed away, unfortunately. So now you can do it yourself with just the touch of a button that fast. We can also drive things on parallel, which is super cool. For those of you that haven't used parallel before, it mixes, it blends the dry with the wet. So right now, this guy right here, number 4, is the Bax EQ. So I could be, right now it's completely dry, I'm not hearing him. As I turn the knob up, I am adding the wet signal. So right now I've got my dry and wet in there. The reason I like this is because certain things like a Manley Massive Passive is really an extreme processor, right? It does plus or minus 20 dB per band of boost or cut. It's wild. So I like to over EQ the living bejesus out of a track, and then I can actually select how much I want. Because it's easier to over EQ and over compress, and then just sit on a knob until you find the sweet spot and it feels good. I don't have to change 12 knobs on a Massive Passive to get to dial in that perfect thing. I can get it where it's it's driving, it's exciting, it feels emotive, and then I can say, okay, where's the sweet spot? Just like moving a fader, and like, oh, that's where it feels great, and then I can print that in that point and remember it. So anyway, so this is all on our mix bus now, right? Now the problem is, remember we said we tracked into the session. How am I going to hear that back? Well, the good news is you're going to assign that final track, that final output, which I call mix down, because when it's 2 in the morning and you may have ingested some sort of foreign substance that may be lowering your IQ, you want to be able to find that final track, so you look in your audio folder and it's mixed down 666 or something, the last one you've done. The way I'm going to listen to that is here. The Convert 2 is going to play back that final mix for me. So I'm going to be able to audition on them, and then that output goes to the Monitor ST again. Same box that we were just talking about a minute ago. So I'm on my Monitor ST, I'm going to have a switch here, right? So I'm going to be before and after, right? So that's going to be coming right out of the 2-bus plus we talked about, and then this is going to be coming out of the Convert 2 for our final.
Dude, that was quite a presentation. I had no idea what we were in for. That's incredible, man. Thank you for doing that. This guy's a beast, a monster. Thank you. What else should the rock stars know about, just getting started? Like if they're thinking, that looks incredible, that looks like a lot of commitment and a place to get to, where would they maybe begin? I mean, I feel like the 2-bus over here, the 2-bus plus would be an exciting thing for me to get started with, just to break out my mix and start improving the sound of mixing in the box.
So a couple points there. One, reactions I will get to this sometimes are, well, why do I need all that stuff? Right? And what's the whole purpose? I've got an interface. So obviously what's happening here is that when you're breaking out those individual components, you're able to make things better and better and better and better, right? So you're gaining at every step of the way, you're gaining something, right? Or I should say, often you're losing less, right? So there are a few things you can do. My first piece of advice, often to people that are beginning, or maybe they're into it and they're like, how do I improve what I'm doing? The first thing you need to do is be able to hear what you're doing, because life is about a library of licks. So I'm a guitar player, so I started out by ripping off Jimi Hendrix and Jeff Beck and whomever. You're just learning all these licks, and then hopefully you wake up one day and you're you, right? You're not just a copycat. Same thing when you're mixing. You want to study what is Motown, why does the kick drum sound like that, and how do I get that kick drum? And what's the relationship between the kick drum and the bass guitar? And let's move to 80s metal or something, or let's move to dance music. Like, how do I get those different sounds? Those are your library of licks. So the problem is, if you can't hear what you're doing, you can't mix it. So I often tell people when they're like, I'm so frustrated, man, I can't mix this. I go, it's okay. You haven't been able to hear anything. It's not your fault. It's like driving with a windshield covered in paint. Yeah. So start with something like just the monitor controller with the D to A, a dangerous source, a dangerous D-Box Plus, monitor ST that you got, you can add a convert to, and now you've got your D to A and you've got your monitor controller. We make something called a producer pack, which is just 3 of the components that we saw. It's the 80 plus, so you can get in A to D. It's a one convert 8, so you can play back 8 channels of summing. That goes into the D-Box Plus, so I've got 8 channels of summing, I got my monitor control, I've got my killer D to A, 2 D to A's actually built into that, 3 if you count Bluetooth. I don't really like Bluetooth audio, but it's handy, you know, but I try to avoid it. So anyway, so that little compact package, you know, is a way for somebody to get in. And I have a lot of high-end, you know, well-known high-end clients that have the whole rig, you know, they're doing big records on, but they go out on the road somewhere, they've got to do something in some funky place, you know, pull a Sylvia Massey and record in a you know, an old radioactive chamber or something, right? And they can bring this, you know, 3 rack spaces of stuff with incredible potency. So
well, that's awesome, dude. Well, thank you for showing that off, man. That's amazing. You're amazing. I like your style too, by the way. And it's just great to meet you. So where should the rock stars go if they want to check this out? Where if they're ready to start buying with something, where do they want to go?
DangerousMusic.com.
Right on. And thank you for watching this, rock stars. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can get more videos from us here at Recording Studio Rockstars. And definitely like this video. This guy is extremely likable. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.